Just kind of want to welcome you guys here to the college planning night. I think it's kind of probably crazy for you guys sitting here about like your little boys and girls, right? That they're going off somewhere next year. And, you know, if you're here, I'm thinking that that's going to be college. So I'm sure you guys have tons of questions. And we have a panel up here that can kind of hopefully fill you in on what they do at their schools. And then our counselors here have tons and tons of experience that they can kind of fill you in on and answer any questions for you, hopefully. So tonight's agenda, guys, we're going to have a college panel discussion up here. And their counselors are going to come through and talk about Naviance, our partnerships with DCC, financial planning, and maybe a good timeline for what you guys should be doing and what your children should be doing to appropriately plan for college. And then at the end, if there's any questions of answers, I think our panel has decided that they're able to stay and answer questions, as well as us and the counselors and everybody's here to take some questions at the end of this. I'm going to turn it over to Katie Mertens, who's going to introduce our panel, and welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Katie Mertens. I am the coordinator of counseling services here at Upper Darby. I wear a lot of different hats, but this is kind of my favorite hat. I love talking with students and families about what comes after high school, and luckily we have some experts here to help us get that conversation started. We have Katie Charles here from Millersville University. She is their director of admissions, and I'm going to let her talk a little bit about the application procedure and the PASHE system.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Katie Charles. I'm the Director of Admissions at Millersville University, which is approximately an hour and a half from here, just south of Lancaster City. We are one of the 14 state schools in Pennsylvania, meaning that we are publicly funded, and our central office is in Harrisburg, PA. You might recognize some of our sister schools in this area. Westchester is one of the state schools, as well as Kutztown, Bloomsburg, East Stroudsburg, as well as however many more that add up to 14. Millersville is considered a medium-sized institution. We have just under 8,000 students on our campus, and so what it would be like to be a student at Millersville would probably be pretty similar to what you have here in high school in terms of your courses. Even though we have almost 8,000 students on our campus, our class sizes are relatively small, anywhere from 25 to 30 students on average, and our student-faculty ratio is about 18-1, meaning that our professors are very easy to access if you need help or if you need to go to them with questions. So in terms of our admissions process, we have rolling admissions, meaning we don't necessarily have a firm deadline for you to apply or to hear a decision back from us. However, since we are enrolling admission, the benefit of the student is that, or to the student, is that once you apply to Millersville and complete all the required credentials as part of your application, usually within 4 weeks you'll get a decision back from us. So the earlier you apply, the earlier you get a decision. We are on the Common App, and we have our own Millersville application as well if you're not applying to schools on the Common App. The Millersville application opens on July 1st, and the Common App opens on August 1st. And so even though we admit students on a rolling basis, we highly recommend that if you're considering Millersville or even any of the state institutions, that you apply before Thanksgiving of your senior year, no later than winter break. A lot of us start awarding financial aid letters and scholarships in January. At least at Millersville, we only review students for scholarships if they've been accepted. We don't have an additional scholarship application. We use your admissions application, and so we need you to be accepted by winter break in order for you to be in that pool to be considered for merit scholarships starting in January. We also offer need-based aid. So the FAFSA opens October 1st, and that goes no matter what school you're applying to, you can start the FAFSA on October 1st. And again, we start giving out need-based aid in January for anyone that's completed the FAFSA. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is what you can do to make your application more competitive. At Millersville, we admit about 70% of the students who apply, and so we're relatively accessible. However, you will be competing with about 6,000 applicants for 1,300 seats in our freshman class. And so, especially because we don't have an additional scholarship application, I'd highly encourage you that when you do your admissions application, you do it as thoroughly and thoughtfully as possible, because that will end up going to the scholarship committee for review. And then one other piece of advice is something some of us in college admissions call demonstrated interest. Demonstrated interest literally means the level of interest that you show in a particular college. Although at Millersville, we pretty much use your admissions application to determine if we're going to admit you to Millersville. But if you tend to be on the borderline of admissions or on the borderline of receiving a scholarship, we're going to give that opportunity to a student that has demonstrated interest in our campus. So if they visited campus for one, if they've come to an open house, if they attended a college fair, if they did a meeting with their admissions counselor, because that tells us that you're genuinely interested in coming to Millersville. So I would highly recommend that as you start this process, you visit campus, as many campuses as you can, in order to kind of see what would be a good fit for you. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Katie. That's a really great point about demonstrated interest. All of our students attended the college fair today, and filling out those information cards, that goes into a system, and we track that demonstrated interest for students. So that's something that you can do right now to make that application more competitive. I want to introduce Christine Gibble. Christine is here with us from Newman. And Christine, if you can just give it some insight on the application process to a private school.
Good evening. I'm Christine Gibble. I'm Senior Admissions Counselor at Newman University. I've been with Newman about a year and a half. So Newman is right down the road, it's in your backyard, and it's very convenient. We have about 2,000 students on campus, okay, so we're pretty small education, small Catholic education. Our class size is about 22, which is relatively equal to what you guys are dealing with here in high school. We have about 100% of students receive some sort of financial aid, and I can get into that in a little bit. We have about 45 different majors. If I had to rank the top 3, I would be looking at nursing, business, and criminal justice as the top 3, most popular. We're looking at adding cybersecurity as of fall of 2019, brand new major. We're really excited about that. We actually gave the RAB, which is the Rocco Abbassino building on our campus, a nice facelift over the winter break, added what's called the fishbowl. So it is a glass room with tables that have computers in them that rise up. Part of the cybersecurity piece that we're adding is that room also has its own server room, so we can crash the system and the students will be able to figure out the issue and then bring the system back up. So it's something that we're really excited about. So we're looking at the application process. Like Millersville, we also use the Common App, and we have an application on our website, okay? We are looking at an early action deadline of December 1st. So if you have all your application requirements to me and materials to me by December 1st, I guarantee a decision to you by Christmas, okay? After that, we are rolling admission, so when you get your materials to me, I can have a decision out to you within about 10 to 14 days. What I need to review your application is your SAT or ACT scores, your high school transcripts, 2 letters of recommendation, 1 at least from a academic source, so a counselor, a teacher. The other can be what you choose. If you had a summer job and you wanted to have your boss write you a letter of recommendation, you absolutely could, okay? I also need an essay. The Common App has prompts. Our application also has prompts for the essay. 100% of students receive some sort of financial aid at Newman, and what that looks like is a merit scholarship, okay? Every applicant that we look at gets a merit scholarship. It's based purely on GPA and test scores, okay? This year I offered between $7,000 and $17,000 depending on where your scores and your GPA fall, okay? So I know it sounds cliche, and for the students in the room, I know mom and dad have said this 1,000 times, but do well, okay? The better you do, the more money I can give you, the more affordable your education is going to be, okay? If I could give you 3 rules of advice to take with you for the next year, it would be to definitely do your research, okay? Some programs, some schools in general are very different. For instance, my nursing program is a direct admit. Other programs may not be that way, so just do your research and be informed so that there's no surprises down the road. Also, go and visit all the campuses that you're looking at. If you've been admitted to 5 schools, go and visit all of them, okay? You may get on campus and really hate it, okay? And that knocks it off the list. You may get on campus and really love it, and then that's the one to beat, so go and visit. The third and final piece would be take your tests, SAT or ACT, more than once, okay? Nobody does fantastic the first time they take their SAT. I don't care who they are, okay? They're nervous, it's a Saturday, it's early. Take it more than once. Be gentle with yourself as students. Relax. you're more familiar the second time around, and you'll do better, I'm certain, okay? I do super score at Newman, so I take your highest English and your highest math, and that's how I get your total combined. So the more times you take the SAT, the better off you're gonna be, the more scores I have to pull from, okay? And that's basically the admissions process at Newman in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Christine. Our third panelist is Meg Saha. Meg is here from Delaware County Community College. We always invite Delaware County to our panels because we want to talk about what the differences are between the admissions process in a community college versus a state or a private school. And we also want to highlight some of the programming that Delaware County has to offer. So Meg and I are going to tag team this. I'm going to talk a little bit about the admissions process, the transfer process, and then Meg, whose expertise really lies in the advanced technology and skilled trades, is going to touch on some of the programming that they have there. So Delaware County is an open enrollment institution. What that means is that if you have your high school diploma, they will accept you. I encourage all students to consider the community college, whether they are number 1 in the class or number 905 in the class. There's something there for everybody. So an open enrollment institution will accept you into their college. You're going to want to make sure that you either take the SAT or ACT or you complete a placement test. Delaware County offers the AccuPlacer on campus, and actually this year we are placement testing students, senior students, here at the high school as well. So that's a great option, and it's not about getting you into the college or kicking you out of the college. It's about making sure that you're in the right level of classes, that you're appropriately challenged, but that you're not drowning in a class that you really can't handle. Okay. The other thing that I want to touch on is Delaware County's transfer programs. So Delaware County is a very popular option for students to complete a 2-year associate's degree and then transfer to another institution such as Westchester, Widener, Temple. They have transfer agreements with many colleges and universities in the area. And I'm sure that actually our state school and our private school can speak to the fact that they receive many transfer students from Delaware County through these agreements. For some students, that's a great fit based on things like affordability or being close to home. And you guys can jump in if you want to talk about transfer in a sec. And then for a lot of students, it's a great fit because when you graduate from Westchester, if you started at Delaware County and did 2 years, 2 years at Westchester, your bachelor's degree says Westchester. It doesn't say I started at Delaware County and then I went to Westchester. So for some students, that's a really good fit. If that is your intention, you're going to want to make sure that you communicate with Delaware County's transfer office. Their whole job from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. is to make sure that you have a successful transfer experience. Oh, perfect. Yep, sorry. It's been a long day. So Delaware County also offers a 2-year associate degree programs, and those are more career degree focused, right? Those programs are designed to get you out and working in a high demand job that are generally high paying. We're talking things like healthcare, nursing, advanced manufacturing, which I'll let Meg touch on. There's lots of great opportunities at Delaware County. So I am going to turn it over to Meg to talk more about advanced manufacturing and the skilled trades.
Hi, everyone. How are you today? Good? Okay. So yeah, I'm here to talk about something a little bit different today, advanced technology and skilled trade. Those are some of the programs that have always been ignored by a lot of people, but I kind of want to begin with a little short story. Before I came in today, one of my students I worked with really closely, he just finished electromechanical program with us. He was going between, should I do engineering or should I do the electromechanical technician? You know, and I kind of told him he chose electromechanical technician, and today around 11:35, I think, he sent me an email saying, hey, Meg, can you look at the attachment below? I have something for you. Me thinking it's a gift card or something. No, just kidding. But I opened it, and it was a job offer. It was a job offer for $60,000+. And just as I mentioned, this was a 1-year program for electromechanical technician. He got the job offer. In that offer letter, it said, within 1 year of your employment here, it will go up substantially to, I think it was like $70,000+. So I don't know any of you here, but I remember graduating college, and my first offer letter was $10.50 an hour. And I was like, whoa, this is a lot of money. But it's crazy because, you know, what people don't think about our program. They think, oh my God, is that guy working in the road doing this? But you are not understanding the fact that they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars that, that maybe somebody, and I'm not saying anything about, 4-year degree or anything like that, but I know with our program, every student that I saw so far graduating, I think the lowest one I saw so far was $45,000, and he was an HVAC technician. The jobs that I kind of work with, and also the programs, that's HVAC, carpentry, CAD, I could go on, it's like project management. So those are the programs we work with where you could finish in one year, get the certification, start working. After the 1 year, if you want to continue to associate degree, you could do your associate degree in skilled trades, or you could do it in advanced technology. Now, this programs, I'm not saying like, you're going to be that student that's going to get a $70,000 offer letter, but I am saying that there's high earning potential. As I mentioned myself, I started with $10.50 an hour, but I always tell there are some people that are just good with working with their hands. There are other people who excels in it. Maybe becoming a professor or a doctor is not for you, but give our program a try, because those are programs that you really might excel in. I have students that came in for criminal justice, ended up in carpentry. I don't know how that happened, to be honest, but I'll tell you this, they're doing great. They're doing an amazing job, and they're going to get a job after, because we have people right now, we have employers. I had an employer coming in and said, I need 6 electromechanical technicians. The company name was, I think, Aurora, and they were like, I need CAD, I need this. They're always asking us for students, but we don't have enough students to provide, because there are many students that come to Delaware County Community College, and they want to do the other programs we offer, which are amazing programs. You save a ton of money, but skilled trades and advanced technology, I think they're really coming up in the world, and it just is going to advance, because there are employers looking for those those students that have those skills, because apparently, I know one of the employers I was talking to just told me that, this jobs, they can be shipped overseas. This job's always, you're going to need an HVAC technician, right? My HVAC system broke last week. So you always need the jobs that we offer in the advanced technologies and also skilled trades. Those are jobs that's always going to be there for you. Your kids are going to graduate. They're going to get a job. They're going to leave your house, and you don't have to pay for them. That's great. That's what I tell them. They're going to leave your house, guys. That's like a big plus. I want my kid to leave right now, but it's great, because they're going to leave. They're going to get a job. Like I said, it might not be 60, so don't hold me on that 60,000. It might be 30, it might be 40, but they're going to get a job, because we have employment services that literally help them. They don't even need their help, because they end up getting 3-4 offer letters right out the door. And that's not me saying any of that. You could come to our office and you could see our skills. You could see the statistic. I just did a reporting on it. So there is just a lot of potential out there. And that's pretty much it.
Let's give it up for our panel. We will do question and answer at the end. So if you have any questions for any one of these representatives, please write them down, and we will get to them in the end. I do want to do a housekeeping that I forgot to tell Mr. Remy to say. You hopefully picked up a purple survey. We'd like for you to take a quick second to look at it and kind of write down what your knowledge is before this session. And then we're going to ask that you fill it out at the end. And then if you can drop it off on the way out, just so we can see how we did tonight. And then the secondary piece is, I know some students didn't make it to the college fair today. For whatever reason, they didn't come down during their learning community. There is another college fair on April 8th, which I believe is that Monday? I think it's Monday, at Valley Forge Casino. It's going to be a large college fair. I'm sure that they're probably going to have 100, 200, 300 schools there. So if you picked up one of those blue books on your way in, or you could pick one up on your way out, there's a list of the different opportunities coming up in the next month or two, and one of those is the information for that college fair. I'm going to talk about my favorite program in this school. The 11th graders know that I love Naviance. It is my favorite place to send students and parents, and we are lucky. Our school district pays for the bells and whistles of this program, which means that you have the opportunity, and your child has the opportunity, to look at everything that Naviance has to offer. I know when my son was in high school, I got really excited because he had Naviance, and I went on, and I was like, whoa, how come he doesn't have all these things? And then I emailed his counselor and was like, why do you not have those things? And he was like, we don't pay for those. I was like, ooh, But we are lucky. We have so much available to us through Naviance. What your children should have done so far on Naviance, they should have done a resume last year. We use the resume for when we get information from different schools, send us program information, or we get awards. So it's important that if your child has not done the resume, that they do. It also is ready then for when they go to college, that they're able to use that for their application. Last year, they did the career interest profile, which gave them a list of occupations that would be of interest to them based on their likes and dislikes. It was about 180 questions, and when they get the job listings, it goes from little education all the way to most education. So it gives a variety of different occupations within an area. This year, we wanted them to do Supermatch. Supermatch is a search engine on Naviance that will allow students to choose different characteristics for a school. So they can choose the location, they can choose their major, they can choose things like they want theater in their school, they may want a newspaper, maybe they're interested in sports. And so this college match allows them to search for schools that would be of interest to them. Hopefully, they're continuing to use Supermatch on a regular basis, because that would lead to them finding a list of schools that they may be interested to go and see or to do further research on Naviance. We also ask that the students put schools, colleges that they're thinking about. There's a list, becomes colleges that I'm thinking about, which next year is going to turn into colleges I'm applying to. But we do want our students to have schools on that list. We are going to be asking them to complete their brag sheet soon. Their brag sheet is about 15 questions, maybe 10, and it asks things like, what activities are you in? What does your best friend say about you? What are your strengths? What activities, awards have you won? What is your college major and why? So questions for us counselors and for teachers to get to know the students. We use that when we do letters of recommendation. So students are encouraged to ask their teachers now for letters of recommendation. And then teachers may say, hey, is your brag sheet done? Because they will have access to that on Naviance to be able to look at it and see a little bit more about this student. I would love to say I know everything that my students do. I know a lot, but maybe not everything. And so when you put something on that brag sheet, it sparks for us a question that we want to ask you to further find out about you that we can add to the letter of recommendation. Most teachers are going to write about your academic strengths in the classroom. So what do you bring to the classroom academically? For us counselors, when we write your letter of recommendation, we're telling a story beyond the academics. We're going to tell a story beyond your GPA. We're showing kind of who you are and why you would make a good candidate for any particular school. You can request the teacher recommendations electronically now. If you talk to a teacher and they want it now, certainly send it. If they don't, you can wait until September. And then lastly, parents, by show of hands, because yes, it's going to be slightly interactive, show of hands, who's gone on to Naviance through their parent account? All right, a few of you. Some of you are like, what? If you do not have, I believe we sent it home last year with like report cards, your access code at some point. But if you need your access code for Naviance, you can certainly email your child's counselor. Parents have access to see what their students are doing. So you don't have to log in as your child. You get to create a parent account and see what your child is doing. You can send them messages. You can see a school and say, hey, I want you to go look up this particular school. So it's a really great opportunity for you to stay in touch. We also, real quick, we also use Naviance as our main form of communication. So we will send out email blasts to students and to parents. So it is important that you have that account so you're getting those email blasts from us. Also, there is on the main page, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a section that says From My School. From My School has, I believe we might be up to 12 or 13 pages. Our pages include junior FAFSA facts, what is a good fit, how to register for the SATs, free SAT prep. We have information listed on there, and we update it pretty regularly. When we see students or parents asking the same questions, we will add a page to Naviance. So we tell students, take a look at Naviance first to see if the information is there. One of the things that the students should be doing right now, you could do as a family, is the college search. Using Supermatch and putting in different information, where do you want to go to school? Do you want to go in Pennsylvania? Do you want to go to Florida? What major you want to apply to. When we talk to students about Supermatch, there's a lot of tabs. I think there's about 8 of them. You don't want to answer all 8 questions because you might not find a school that fits. So kind of start a little bit broader, narrow it down if your list is too large. Don't limit your thinking about list. Students should have at this point, hopefully maybe 15, 20 schools on that list that they're thinking about. And there's different ways that you can research. You can look on Naviance, and I'm going to show you what it looks like to research on Naviance. You can go to their website. A lot of colleges have virtual tours, so you can actually go on and take a virtual tour on their website, maybe even prior to going and getting on a college campus. We do recommend that you go and visit schools. Spring break is a great time. We are blessed in our area. I think we probably have access within an hour, probably 50 plus schools in the area. So go and visit some schools over spring break or even in the summer so you can get a feel for what you're looking for. By the summertime, students should start to narrow down their colleges that they're thinking about. We would love for our students to apply to about 5 to 6 schools, and we would love for them to love every school that they apply to. The heartbreak for us as counselors when a student comes to us and they didn't get into their first choice, and so they're like, well, I guess I'm just going to go to whatever university. And they really don't want to. We don't want that. We want the problem to be you get into your schools and you're like, oh, which one do I want to choose? Okay? So when you're looking at your list, make sure you want every single one of those. I do want a side note for nursing. Anybody interested in nursing here? No nurse? One? Okay. All right. Nursing is very competitive. It is. Even at a school, for example, Westchester, which I believe has maybe a 50% or so admit rate, their nursing program only admits 10%. Even Delaware County Community College, their nursing program is competitive. So we suggest about 10 or so schools for nursing because of the competitiveness. And we suggest that you apply as early as possible for nursing to make sure that you have your best shot. You should include private and public schools. You never know financially what you're going to get. You might think, hey, the sticker price of Millersville is a lot less than Newman. But you may apply and end up getting a lot more scholarship money from Newman, and Newman becomes more cost effective for you than Millersville. Sorry to pick on you guys. Okay. So include public and private, and include schools that are a range of cost. We also suggest the likely target and reach. So a reach school is one that's just out of your GPA. It's just out of your SAT score, but you really want to try for that school. You should have or could have 1 or 2 reach schools. If all 6 of your schools are reach schools, that could be an issue. So you want to make sure that you also have target schools. Those are the schools where you fit the range. So your scores, your SATs, your GPA, you're right there where the school what the school wants. And then your likely schools are the ones where you are above the average. So if you scored 1250 on your SAT, but the average SAT of the school that you're looking at is 1,000, that would be a likely school because you are above their requirements. So you want to kind of have a mix of that when you're looking at schools. And you may be saying, how do I know if it is a likely or a reach or a target? And we're going to show you through my favorite word. Oh, come on, students. Right, through Naviance. All right, so I hope we can see this. Oh, yeah, it's not too bad. It's kind of a little bit small. So this is a screenshot. When you log into Naviance, there's all these different sections. There are tabs: colleges, career, about me, and my planner. This is the college tab. Students should be mostly working in this year and will pretty much only be working in this tab next year. This is where you're going to find Supermatch. You're going to find scholarships. There is an area called College Match. And I believe that there's also summer program opportunities possibly in this section. So we want you to be spending time in this particular tab. Once you pick a school, and we chose Shippensburg, if you can see up there, there are 5 tabs. There's an overview, studies, student life, admissions, and costs. Now, if you've ever anybody ever go to a college website and try to find the average SAT score or the average GPA of a college? Anybody do that? How successful were you? Right, kind of. It's really hard to find that information. It's like the college doesn't want you to know it, right? So Naviance is going to tell you. Under admissions, it will tell you their average SAT score, their average ACT score, the GPA, their average GPA. It is a wonderful tool. It'll show you what different majors there are. It shows you the student life. So this is a great starting point when you're looking at a school. If Shippensburg becomes someplace that you're like, ooh, I really do want to go there, we recommend that you go to the website as well. But Naviance is a great starting point to find general information all in one area. We'll also, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the overview, you get this nice little dial. And it tells you how well you fit in for your GPA, your SAT, and your overall average. So it shows you on the needle, is this a likely school? Is it a target school? Or is this a reach school? It's a great snapshot for you to know where that school falls in with your GPA, your SAT scores. The one caveat that I will point out is that's the overall. Some schools, admissions varies based on the major. So for some majors, they're a little bit more difficult to get into than others in any particular college. Am I right? Okay, all right. So you do want to keep that in mind if you are thinking about a program that's pretty selective. And if you're not sure, that's a great question to ask when you go to a college fair or when you go to a campus visit. How selective is your admit rate for engineering, etc.? The one last thing about that before I hand it over, it's not on this screen, but if you go to the admissions tab on Naviance, you scroll down a little bit and you'll see a scattergram that shows you how students fare at a particular school. So you can actually see, what is our average GPA, what is our average SAT score for students that get into schools like Temple, Drexel, Millersville, Newman, etc. So the scattergram is really good to show you how well is your student going to compare to our students and how a college accepts us. And I'm going to now hand it over to Ms. Perez.
All right, so now we're going to touch on a little bit about what colleges are looking for. Then we'll transition to talking about what your students should be doing now and into the summer. And then I'll end my part talking about dual enrollment before I hand it over to Mrs. Sullenberger. So starting off, we want to talk a little bit about GPA and SAT. I know kind of as we heard from our college representatives and from Ms. Morse, it's one of the main considerations when they talk about acceptance for students. One thing that I do want to know is a question that I get a lot from parents, from students, is what is a good GPA? What is a good SAT? I know that's a question we get a lot. And the best response I can give to that is it's dependent on the college that your student's looking into. So while Millersville might have some requirements, they might not be the same as Newman. Maybe the GPAs, the SATs, what they're going to be looking at, their average is different. So when we talk to students about the SATs and what they should be shooting for, the GPA and SATs, like they should be shooting for the average range of the school that they're looking to apply to. Obviously, that's going to be a list, and that's kind of how Ms. Morris talked about how they can determine like reach versus likely reach target. So that's the answer to that $1 million question of what a good SAT and ACT score is. The other thing that colleges are going to be looking for is specific courses that they require for admission. Something that I know is kind of a point of confusion for some of our students sometimes is when we talk about a foreign language, for example. I know some students will come to us and say a foreign language is that a requirement to graduate from Upper Darby. While it's not a requirement to graduate from Upper Darby, a lot of colleges will require a foreign language. So on Naviance, there's actually, if you click through the tabs, they'll show you kind of how many years of the core class each college requires. The majority of them are going to require 4 English, they're going to require 3 to 4 math, and there's also a difference. They have requirements, so the things that you absolutely need to have in order to be accepted, and then they also have recommendations. We always tell our students, always read the recommendations as requirements. It's always better to have that extra leg up on the competition when they're applying to these different colleges and universities. So kind of circling back to the world language, the majority of colleges do require up to 2 years of a foreign language. Like I know Temple off the top of my head. If the students don't have those 2 years of a foreign language, Temple won't consider their application. Drexel only requires 1, so I know Drexel, like if they at least have up to a level 1 of a foreign language, that's kind of what they're looking for. And then I think Arcadia doesn't require any at all. So it just depends. We definitely want you guys to get familiar with Naviance and kind of looking at those different requirements. Rigor of courses. I know students a lot of the times are always kind of, like we like to say, keeping up with the Joneses, which is like they want to take all these accelerated honors, AP classes, because they think, oh, I'm going to do so much better. Realistically, those classes aren't for everyone. Some kids do really well in those classes, and some kids, you know, they might not be there yet. They might not be ready for those classes. Just from talking to a couple of college reps today during our college and career fair, their recommendation to our students is always it's better to do really well at the level that you're at. So if you're a really strong academic or accelerated student, it's a good idea to challenge yourself and always try and like push yourself. So if you're getting like 99 in an academic course, then you might want to try accelerated. You might want to level up. But if you're getting about an 85 to a 90 range in an academic course, and that's kind of where your fit is, we recommend that you kind of stay in that range and get those good grades because they're going to take your GPA into consideration. Kind of like the reps talked about a little bit, demonstrated interest is something that they look at. They want to make sure that, you guys are reaching out, taking tours. I know our kids have heard us say this a lot, which is the people at the college fairs are the ones that are going to read their application. So we always tell them to make good first impressions when they go on these tours, when they go to these college fairs, because they remember the really good kids. They also remember, if you have your hood up, you have your headphones in, they're going to remember that. So we definitely want them to have that interest, but also be appropriate when they're making these connections. Extracurricular activities and leadership roles. If you have 2 students with the same SAT and the same GPA, they're looking at 2 students that are exactly the same, that's when they're going to start looking at the different extracurriculars and activities that they've done throughout high school. That could be, that extra club that your student does could be the difference between their acceptance or not. And it just depends. It depends on the applicant pool, who else is applying. So it's always good for students to get involved. We have tons of clubs at Upper Darby, tons of opportunities. So even if they haven't had involvement up to this point to the level that they would like to, it's never too late. And then the personal statement, that's something that's going to be the most important thing aside from their GPA and their SAT. It's extremely important. This is the chance for your student to kind of have that conversation with the college rep in that admissions room. They're only looking at these applications for maybe 2 to 3 minutes, and one of the things that they're going to look at is that essay, which is your student's story, what they have to say about themselves. Each college has a different prompt, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And depending on how they answer that prompt, that can tell them a lot about a student. So transitioning a little bit to the timeline for junior year, something that we've been talking to students about a lot, and I know a lot of your students have already started to come talk to us about, is signing up for the SAT and the ACT. A couple of dates for the SAT. I know the deadline for the May 4th SAT is this Friday. So if you're looking to take the SAT in May, just make sure you do it before Friday. There's a late registration for the SAT as well, but that costs money. Some students do get fee waivers. For the SAT, it's based on income. We have like a master list that the government provides us of students who automatically qualify. So we're able to give out fee waivers to some students just as soon as they come into our office. For those who don't qualify, we do offer an income survey where we give you a survey that kind of just asks how many people are in the family and in the home. We ask to just quickly look at your W-2 just to confirm some numbers, and if you qualify based off the information on the survey and on the W-2, we can give out fee waivers as well. And then I know there's some information on how to sign up for the SAT and ACT outside, so if you didn't grab that on your way in, feel free to grab it on your way out later today. And collegeboard.org and act.org are where students go to sign up for the actual SATs and ACTs. And one thing we like to emphasize is we don't have access to that, so we always want to make sure that students remember those logins. Unfortunately, parents, you guys can't sign up for them either, although I know that would make your lives a little bit easier sometimes. But, you know, we hope at this point, you guys are junior students, you guys have your logins. I know we created them last year in class guidance. And if worst case scenario, if they don't remember their logins, College Board, you could always call College Board and they'll be able to provide that. It is kind of a lengthy process, so it's better to do it now than to wait until the last day of signups and try and get that login information. The other thing that we recommend students start doing kind of right now is visiting college campuses. Kind of like we talked about for demonstrated interest, some colleges will keep a list of students that have come for open houses or visited the campuses. Upper Darby, we're fortunate enough that we actually give students 2 free field trip days per year to visit college campuses. I know a lot of parents, a lot of the times your concern is if I go during spring break or if I go on a weekend, they're not going to get the full flavor of the campus. They're not going to get to see what it's really like to be there on a day where there's classes and there's other students. So we definitely encourage you guys to take advantage of one of those free field trip days. Letters of recommendation. We told this to the student in our guidance lesson last week. You want to speak to your teachers first before getting the letter of recommendation. The other thing is we encourage kids to ask their junior year teachers. The reason for that is because they're the ones that know them the best at this point and remember them the most. The senior year teachers, they're not going to know them that long at the point where they're ready to apply for college. They're only going to know them for a couple weeks. They're going to be able to request letters of recommendation on Naviance, but I know some teachers, if they get a random request from a student and the student hadn't talked to them beforehand, they won't even write it. And some teachers have caps, like they'll take the first 25 students that ask them for a letter of recommendation. So that's why we really want them to start asking right now at this moment. Kind of like Ms. Morris mentioned, we did resumes with our students last year. I know not everybody got to do the resume lesson, but the resume is available for viewing on Naviance and updating that resume at any point. It's a good way to keep track of activities, keep track of everything that they've done, because I know sometimes you guys have done so much, students, that when you get to your senior year, you're sitting down in those applications, you don't even remember everything that you've done, or it's like it can make a lengthy process a little bit more time efficient. Kind of touching back on the college essay, the common application, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's an application that students can fill out that a lot of colleges can pull from. So they fill out one application and they can send it to multiple colleges. The essay prompts for that application specifically are actually already readily available on Naviance. So we recommend that they start writing it now because it's an essay. We want it to be the most beautiful essay they've ever written in their life. We want it to be perfect. We want it to be edited a million times if necessary, because we want it to be a true reflection of what they're capable of. We want it to be something that they've thought through. It has to be the best essay they've ever written, and they can start now. That's the thing. It's like they have time for it. We don't want you guys to stress yourself out and have to write it the night before. So moving on a little bit to the summer before senior year, some recommendations that we have is that the transcript is always readily available on eSchool. You guys might know it as the Home Access Center. Just make sure it's accurate. I know sometimes students will catch mistakes. Specifically, I know some students who took algebra and Spanish at the middle school. I remember last year I had a couple students come to me and say, hey, I looked at my transcript. It doesn't have my Spanish or my Algebra 1. Unfortunately, sometimes mistakes like that do happen, so that's why we want them to review it. But we go through and we review them as well. We're always looking to make sure it's the most accurate reflection of you and checking that. But it definitely helps if you can help us with things like that as well. Update information on Naviance, like Ms. Morris mentioned. We want to make sure that we have your email. We want to make sure that we're able to give you those updates, and you always want to have the most up-to-date information. If you have an old email on there that you're not using anymore, maybe you don't check because you have all that spam. Everyone has that spam email, I'm sure. You want to make sure it's one that you're checking. It's not going to be overloaded. Mid-August, they want to start the applications. They want to finalize the essay. We want it to be kind of already, we want at this point to already be kind of done with the rough draft stage, especially for the Common App because it's readily available. We have the writing lab available during the beginning of the year, and during this year, all year round, we have the writing lab, which is run by the National English Honor Society. Those students and those teachers can help your student kind of look at their essay, edit it for grammar, spelling, and just content, and give some suggestions for that. They also want to send teachers the request for the recommendations at this point through Naviance, and we can answer any questions about how to do that later on. And then Ms. Sullenberger is going to touch a little bit more about the FSA ID a little bit later. And so one of the other things that they can start doing during the summer and even now, we have an amazing partnership with Delaware County, and that partnership program is called Dual Enrollment. I know a lot of students have already asked for dual enrollment applications, have already submitted dual enrollment applications. And for those of you who aren't familiar, what dual enrollment is, it's essentially an opportunity for your student to start taking college classes while they're still in high school. The way it works is we have a partnership with Delaware County where they will offer college classes to our students at a reduced rate. I believe the cost is about $160 for students to take a class, and they can take up to 21 credits worth of classes. One of the things that I do want to mention is it does go on their high school transcript, and it's something that follows them throughout their college career. So what they're taking now, other colleges will see that they apply to. I know we have the applications available in the center. We brought some copies of the application as well for you guys to take. We have them, I believe, out there. If not, your student can come and see us in the center, and we can give them one. With the Delaware County, we normally offer testing in our building. We offer registration in our building with Ms. Sue Oakley, who's the liaison for dual enrollment. I know at this point, if they haven't applied yet, she suggested that they themselves register through her directly and take the AccuPlacer directly through Delaware County by calling themselves. And what the AccuPlacer is, it's a test that determines college readiness. So they can actually take that test. It's kind of a long test. I believe it's about 3 hours. It just kind of determines whether or not they need maybe a support class before they go straight into the college class. They want to make sure that they're taking students who are going to be ready to take those college courses, and if they need that extra help first, that they get that extra help. The other great thing about that exam is if your student's already taken their SAT and they've scored at least a 500 in the math or 500 in the reading, they can actually get exempt from the AccuPlacer. They can use those scores to say, hey, here's my SAT results. It's also another way of demonstrating that college readiness. So now I'm going to transition it over to Mrs. Sullenberger.
The SATs do have a cost, and they've changed a lot over the years. I think every 10 years they go through a change. So right now the SATs are out of 1,600. They're 800 for the evidence-based reading and writing and 800 for the math section. They still offer an option with essay, What they had found out over the 10 years that they had the essay as a requirement was that many schools weren't using it or looking at it. So there's not too much of a need for the essay unless your child is preparing to go to a more select school or an Ivy League school, then the essay is considered part of a subject test. So in addition to the SATs, your child would need to take also the subject test if they were going to one of those more select schools. So that is one thing that you do find out when you're going through either Naviance or on the school's website. What is their requirement for the SATs? Do they require subject tests? What subject tests are they looking for? So that's something that we would hope that students would take those tests at least once before the end of junior year. So and I think what's nice about Upper Darby with both the SAT and the ACT is that we are a test site. Each of those exams offer 7 tests a year. For the ACTs, we are a test site in both September and in June. And for the SATs, we are a test site in October, November, March, May, and June. So it's nice that the students do have the opportunity to take the tests in their home school and don't have to worry about going over to Bonner or William Penn or Haverford or someplace else to take the exam. We do offer it here at the high school. We're a very large testing site too, so 500 students will show up for the June SAT. So you want to get your application in as soon as possible. We've noticed in the past, students may wait till that May 3rd deadline or May 4th deadline, and they're like, wait, I didn't get Upper Darby. Why? Because we filled up. So you want to make sure you do get that application done early. And again, the students should have their College Board accounts. If not, they need to remember the email that they use. I've been telling a lot of students, because of the PSATs we took in October, that if they got an email on December 10th, that's the email that the College Board has connected to their account, so they can go back through that way to get that information. Come to find out that a lot of schools are moving towards some test optional. I did go on the fairtest.org. There are about 1,000 schools listed on there that are test optional. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's beneficial for our students as well, because usually those schools do require an additional requirement. So make sure you really research that a lot too. We still advise that it's wise to try the SAT and or ACT. We really can't determine what test you'll do better on. All right, so you do want to try both of those. I think Ms. Perez mentioned too about the fee waivers. You're very welcome for the students to stop by our office to see if you qualify for those fee waivers. You do get 2 per test if you do. The PSATs, when you're looking at test prep help, the PSATs were definitely ones that we thought were awesome. They link to Khan Academy. It's a free site. It's free testing information. It's really been helpful for our students that have used it and used the practice tests and preparing for the test. So through that, you link to Khan Academy. It'll work on the problems you need to work on, what you need to improve upon. It'll really gear it towards your child's PSAT results. Let's Get Ready is a program that we run in both the spring and in the fall. Our first batch started in February. Applications started in December for that. We will have another Let's Get Ready program this summer, and that's a program that it's free. So students have to apply online, and when we get more information for that, will probably be the end of April, early May. We will, again, send that out on Naviance. We put sign-up sheets in homerooms. It's a little worrisome that we have 850 juniors, and when you're talking about free test prep, 25 sign up, and then we're digging for students to get to our 60 or 55, whatever they're looking for. So we really think that there are a lot of opportunities there that students need to take advantage of. Other test prep companies and tutors, they can be expensive. I think at one time there was the K2 Academy. There's Kaplan, which I've noticed is now linked on Naviance. When students go onto Naviance and scroll to the bottom of their homepage, Kaplan pops up. And I went and played on that today, and you can do ACT prep or SAT prep, but it will be at a cost. So just be aware of that too. So I leave this slide for last, the financial aid. I think this is my own personal fear of the upcoming financial aid process. It is a process. When looking at schools, there's the cost of attendance, and there'll be the sticker price that you see. You may see it's $35,000 for a year, it's $12,000 for room and board. That's your sticker price. That's your direct cost, what they're telling you. They may discuss some of the fees. The indirect costs will be, how much money does my child need for snacks? How much does it cost to travel to that school? Even if you are a commuter, how much is it going to cost for my monthly train pass? How much is it going to cost for gas? What's the parking sticker that I need to pay for? There's lots of different things that are the indirect costs that you have to take into consideration when you're looking at the total price of college for a year. Even laundry, that was mentioned. You have to worry about paying for laundry. And then you may say, well, I'll live off campus. Well, then how much are your utilities going to be? How much water are you going to use? Electricity. There's lots of things that fall under the indirect cost. When looking at financial aid, there's 4 different types. Scholarships are usually the ones that are earned or awarded to a student. They don't have to be paid back. Sometimes you do have to meet a certain requirement. So it may be, I'm not sure if Newman, if they offer you $17,000, they're going to expect that you're going to maintain your GPA. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Like, wow, I got this award. I'm going to get it every year. If you don't keep that GPA, you may not keep that award. So you have to keep that in mind. It is earned, but it has to continue to be earned all throughout college. It's mostly for academics, although when you do a lot of the different scholarship searches, there are ones if you're left-handed. Some are based upon a medical disability, maybe a visual impairment. So there's lots of different awards out there, and we have a whole list of sites in the back of the book. There's a ton in Naviance as well. There's actually individual scholarships in Naviance, so there's a lot of different ways to get scholarships. It's about the time and effort that you put into getting the scholarship that really counts. Because if you can get a $1,000 scholarship for spending 15 hours on writing a paper, where are you going to earn $1,000 in 15 hours? So keep that in mind. When you look at need-based grants, those are the things like the Pell Grant. Those are, like FIA has grants, which is the state grant. So the Pell Grant is federal, and they offer up to $6,100 max for 12 semesters, so for up to 6 years. So once you go through beyond 12 semesters, you no longer can be eligible for that grant. So if it takes you more than 6 years to get through college, you no longer will be eligible to get that grant money. Again, when the price tag is $42,000 and you're only going to be given $6,100, there's still a big difference that you're being asked to make up. When you look at FIA, they have a range based upon the schools that you go to, and FIA is the Pennsylvania Higher Education Aid Agency. They have a range based upon the schools that you apply to, but if you decide, you know what, I'm going to go to out of state, they're only going to give you $500 or $600 for that school, okay? And that is also based on income, and all of that would be based on the FAFSA. When you look at loans, loans are something that student loans, everybody's always heard of the student loans and the giant student loan debt. Student loans can be about $6,500 a year, but the 6 months, like if you don't finish college or for some reason have to make a change or you can't continue, 6 months later you're being asked to pay that money back. And there will be a lot more information on financial aid next year. We will have an assembly too. But you have to keep in mind that money then builds up. If you get 4 or 5 years of student loans, you're walking out with $30,000 to $40,000 in debt. So you have to be wary of that too. And then parent loans, direct loans. Parents have to qualify for those loans too. And then sometimes when you see that financial aid letter, it'll list all the loans, and you have to make sure that you're reading what is a loan, what is a grant, what is a scholarship. Because the scholarship and the grant, you don't have to pay back, but the loans you will. Work study, the last thing when they list that on a financial aid package, they may say, oh, you're going to get $1,000 for work study. You still have to find the job. And if they have jobs that they offer, they may offer them to you, but the money that you earn that's going into your pocket needs to go back out to them in order to count as part of that financial aid process too. So again, looking at the sources of aid, they can be federal, which would be about the Pell Grant. They can be state, which is FIA. They can be private, which would be scholarships or loans. And then it can also be institutional, which would be from the academic institution that you're attending. The sources, again, are in the back. What you should be doing right now is making sure that your 2018 taxes are complete. For this class, the FAFSA opens up on October 1st, and it will be drawing from your 2018 taxes. Okay, so what you earned last year as parents and as students will be what goes into the FAFSA for you guys when you apply to college. The FSA ID, you can get that on the FAFSA.gov website, but that won't open until about September. Usually you get that 10 days before you start the process for your financial aid.
For a few minutes, thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate your attentiveness and your questions. If we could just give a round of applause to our panel. They did a wonderful job. Thank you so much. Have a great night.